when the Conservative Party chairman Nadim Zahawi appeared to use Putin's war in Russia as a reason for not giving nurses a pay rise.
Chasing inflation or above inflation pay deals is not the thing to do right now. This is a time to come together and to send a very clear message to Mr. Putin.
If Zahawi wanted to unite, he appears to have done anything but. Shortly after, the unions called his comments, quote, a new low for this government. The winter walkouts planned affect virtually every frontline service. Up to 100,000 nurses will walk out on the 15th and 20th of December as unions demand a pay increase above the rate of inflation. With another round of train strikes planned, more than 40,000 workers will walk out on the 13th, 14th, 16th, 17th, 23rd and 24th of December, with further strikes planned in January. And Royal Mail staff will strike on the 9th, 11th, 14th, 15th, 23rd and 24th of December.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. This is your host AJ speaking, and it's a simple A and a J. My middle name starts with an A and my last name starts with a J. So my friends and everyone I know call me AJ for short. And I know I've been away for over a week, guys. I've not been making videos. There's a lot going on around the world. I completely understand that. First of all, I'd like to apologize for not making a video for over a week. Hey guys, I'm going to have a bit of a rant and a moan, and I've been away for over 1.5 weeks not making videos. I want to explain why. If you don't want to hear it, then you're welcome to move to the 10-minute mark. The real, meat of the video starts from the 10-minute mark. So fast forward to the 10-minute mark if you do not want to hear me rant and rave about what's been happening with my life and why I've been away for a week and a half not making videos. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the main show. The main reason is I've been very much demotivated. And the reason I've been demotivated is I'm just not getting the views in my YouTube channel anymore. I mean, you're welcome to check it out for yourself, and you can see all of my videos that I used to average 10 to 20k views per video before, and now I'm only getting between 1,000 and 2,000, which is a really huge drop. And I don't really care about YouTube figures and numbers, but that kind of drop does really affect you. Does demotivate you. What you think to yourself, is it YouTube that's doing that, or are people just sick of hearing my voice? So you kind of ask yourself questions, and also I have been asking for support in terms of locals or Patreon members. I've not been getting that even. My locals number is still 44 out of the target of 50. And I did say I needed around 50 to do this full time. I still haven't had the target. And obviously I've left my job. So basically I've been applying for other work as well, and I've managed to find another civil service job. And as you know, when you work in the civil service, it's easy to find other civil service jobs, because when you work in the civil service, you have to go through a lengthy security clearance procedure, and this takes about 6 months to a year. And when I first got the job, I had to wait around a year before I started working, and the rest of the time I was at home on gardening leave until the security clearance came through. And once it came through, then I could start work. So obviously they don't want to hire people to sit around for a whole year before they can start work. So it's easier for them to hire other civil service members, move them from department to department, so they don't have to go through the same clearance stuff again, because they've already gone through clearance. And this is why I can find other civil service jobs very easily. So I applied for one and I got it straight away. So obviously I'm a bit disappointed, because I wanted to do this full time, but I'm not getting the support, unfortunately. And obviously I've got bills to pay and stuff like that. So 44 members on locals is just not going to be enough. And if you compare the number to somebody who's similar, subscribers to me, like Danny, there's a guy called Danny, I can't remember his surname, But he recently he was under Duran and stuff. He talks about a lot about China and a few other things as well. Danny Haifeng or something. I can't remember his full name, but he's got like 2,500, and that's enough for him to make a good living, making YouTube videos, and he can do this full time without worrying about the bills or how much it's going to cost him. But 43, 44 members is just not going to be enough for me. This really is peanuts, to be honest. Um, Compare it to Richard Medhurst, who's got around 8 to 9,000 Patreon members. So you have like big players like that making videos, but my videos are not very different to theirs. I talk about very similar subjects. I have pretty much the same guests. So I just do not understand why some people get more and I get like peanuts, really. So it's kind of not making sense to me. And yeah, so kind of thinking whether it's all worth doing it because when things like that happen, it kind of does demotivate you, and you think to yourself, do I need to continue making these YouTube videos? Because I'd rather be sitting at home, spending time with the missus, rather than making videos, doing research, doing edits, and all of that. It takes a lot of time, guys. And for what? For peanuts. I just don't know if it's worth it. Um, I mean, I really appreciate all the support you guys who have been giving me so far. All of my, locals and Patreon members. Each and every one of you have been very, very special to me, and you're the reasons I have kind of lasted this long. But in order to survive, I would need much, much more. And I did give a target, and I didn't reach the target. So obviously, I'm not that popular. But you have to ask yourself. Sometimes it's the young and up and coming channels like myself who need the support. Because when you want to spread the truth out there, just one or two voices is not enough. You need a real big team of voices, and we all have to work together, sending the truth out. It's all about supporting each other and spreading the truth and justice and what have you not. And it's really, really important to spread that message out. And sometimes these young up and coming channels, they need the support more than ever, more than the established channels. Because the established channels, they've got the subscriber count, they've got the support, so they don't need that many more supporters. When you got supporters into the thousands and 8 to 9,000 in some cases, 43 to them is nothing. It's like small change. While 43 to 50 to me, it's like gold. It's a difference between carrying on or giving up. So yeah, so a lot of these thoughts have been going through my head, to see if it's actually worth it or whether I should just do private live chats with my Patreon and local members only. So I just know I'm just kind of thinking what to do really. I won't be able to do as many videos as I did before because as I left my last job, I was working through my notice. So obviously there wasn't much work available, so I could churn out a lot of videos every day. But now with the new job, I'm gonna have to kind of spend more time in the job, getting a real wage as opposed to relying on you guys. You should never rely on other people. End of the day, that's the way I see it. Anyway, apologies for the rant. And like I said, I really appreciate everyone that has been supporting me so far. And I've got a real good fan base who always come to my live chats and show me a lot of support. And I really appreciate you guys. And this is the reasons I'm still here. Otherwise, I would have given up a long time ago. But the rest of you, I've got like 28,000 subscribers. There's still a lot of you who can do a lot more. Like even if you can't pay financially, at least try and watch my video to the end. At least try and like the video. At least try and share it or comment on it. Just help the algorithm, guys. It's not all about money. Sometimes you need to show support to your creator by watching the video, by just making sure you have your notifications on and things like that. Just basic stuff. And this way, this helps like grow the channel This helps more viewers viewing the video as well, because as you like the chat, as you like the video, as you kind of share the video, as you comment on the video, it pushes the video out to more people to watch. So things like that, basic things like that, you have to do. You have to do it. Um, it really, really does help us, especially the young and up and coming ones like myself. So we're coming up to the main part of the show now. So it's all politics from now on. I'm going to be talking about the UK first of all, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about Ukraine and Russia as well, and a bit of China at the end. So I'm going to start with this story. Nurses must drop pay demands to send clear message to Putin, cabinet minister says. So we have a cabinet minister called Nadeem Zahawi, and many people don't realize Nadeem Zahawi. He's got over £50 million portfolio, property portfolio in the United Kingdom. So you would think that this guy is a very clever guy. Um, However, this guy is very rich. He's probably got money coming out of his ass right now, and he can't afford to pay nurses a single penny, or he doesn't think that nurses deserve a pay rise. And he comes on national television, and I've showed you the clip in the beginning of the show. He comes on national television and basically says, blames Putin for it, and he asks nurses to drop the pay demands. And he says we should all stand together and stick it to Putin. Apparently, that's his excuse. And he said this a few times now. It's not just about nurses. He came on before. He tried to use this Putin excuse before. He was laughed out of the park. And this guy's a right idiot. But he's not going to come on front of the television saying things like that, out of his own free will. He would have been told this is what he needs to say from his PR agent, and this PR agent would have come straight from the top. And I'm talking about Rishi Sunak here, because no government minister is going to come on television and start blaming Putin, things like that. He was obviously asked to say that and told to say these things, you know, and this is exactly what he's done. And he's a puppet of basically of Sunak. Sunak doesn't want to get the heat to do it himself, so he sends his little puppet out to do this dirty work for him. And this is the state of British life at the moment. And recently ambulance drivers have decided to strike as well, and also many paramedics and doctors have decided to strike as well. And this is happening at a time when Britain is coming to the coldest time in the year, and you can see it's going to be minus 10 degrees coming up from today. And we're talking about Arctic weather here. When something's minus 10 degrees, it's very, very cold. And my missus basically, it's so cold. My missus was trying to get to work this morning, and her car was completely frozen. And she could not drive the car at all because it was so frozen. She couldn't even open the door. So she had to obviously get hot water, towel, and and basically clear the car with ice. And she had to do a lot of things to get the car moving, but it is so cold at the moment. So imagine this, you have no nurses during this cold time, you have no ambulance drivers, you have no paramedics, even doctors are going on strike. So who's going to be running the NHS? There's going to be so many people who die during this winter time. So many people are going to be dying, and all of these deaths are going to be on Rishi Sunak's head because he cannot afford to give nurses a pay rise. He'd rather cut nurses' salary. He'd rather give them a clap than give them a pay rise. I mean, these nurses have been fighting in the front line during COVID, and guess what the pay rise they had last year? It's laughable. 1% pay rise they had last year. And if you take into account inflation, if inflation has risen by 10% and your nurse's salary has grown by 1%, basically technically you are taking a pay cut, because if everything else has gone up by 10% and your wage has only gone up by 1%, that means you're missing 9%. That means your salary has gone down by 9%. And this is what they're not happy with, and they want basically an inflation busting salary. They want at least 10% or even more, and they deserve it. I mean, a lot of nurses put their lives on at risk, basically fighting COVID, looking after COVID patients and stuff like that. A lot of them put their lives on risk. So whatever they get, they deserve it. And same with anyone that works in the NHS. However, they rather give this money to Ukraine than give it to NHS. And you've seen Boris throwing money away, giving it to Zelensky every time he goes there. You've seen Rishi Sunak doing the same thing. Liz Truss was doing the same thing. And not only that, imagine jumping on a private jet going to Ukraine. How much is that going to cost? It's costing taxpayer a lot of money. All that private jet stuff, training all of these Ukrainian soldiers. I mean, Britain is not even telling you how much money they send to Ukraine, because if they do, then imagine the people not standing for it. They'll be out there in the streets rioting. So I know that they are hiding a lot of the figures, exactly the same way they have been hiding how much money they have spent in Iraq, in Afghanistan, following the US, in those countries, killing loads of Muslims in the process. And you can imagine how much money they have spent, and none of that they're going to admit how much they've spent in Iraq. They're not going to even admit how much they've spent in Afghanistan. Don't forget how many refugees they've been taking in over the years. There's a lot of money, and we're talking about, tens of billions, if not more, per year. War salaries, and it's absolutely ridiculous, and they can't afford to pay the NHS to give them pay rise, which they deserve. They rather than give it to Zelensky and his cronies, to FTX, which has collapsed. Absolutely unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And now you have Rishi Sunak hiding behind Nadim Zahawi, asking him to do the dirty work, go in front of the television and say, oh, we got to stick it to Putin. Absolutely unbelievable, guys. He's also approved Britain's first coal mine in decades, despite climate concerns. And everybody knows Rishi Sunak is not very much a climate guy. He initially said he's not going to attend COP27. And when he was Chancellor, he did not put any, you know, major green agenda through at all. Why should he? Why should he? I mean, his house, he's got a massive new swimming pool that he's built. Imagine the carbon dioxide that's sending out with all of the energy and gas that you use to heat up that pool. I mean, he doesn't care about the climate. As long as he lives his rich life, as long as he's enjoying his life with his billions in his pocket, he doesn't care about the climate. He doesn't care about UK people. He doesn't care about nurses. As long as he's living a cushy life. So there's other things happening in Britain behind the scenes, and you know, there's a lot of firms in UK who have been asked to do 4-day weeks. And in my firm as well, in my last job, they've also asked to do 4-day weeks as well. A lot of civil service jobs have been asked to do 4-day weeks. My new job, they haven't asked me yet, but they're looking to do it. And this is going to go nationwide, and you can see they're going to make it permanent. And it seems like they're going to make it nationwide. And the reason this is happening right now is because Britain is having a major gas shortage, and you can see they're opening up coal power plants. They just don't have the gas, they don't have the energy. There's no, wind in the wind farms. There's no solar in the solar plants, because Britain right now is at a place where there's no sun. It's always raining in UK. It's always like cloudy. So solar power is pretty much useless here. And last few years, it's not been very windy either. So Britain has got absolutely hardly anything coming out of you know out of renewables. They have to rely on fossil fuels, and the nuclear power plants. Don't even ask me about that. Recently they kicked out the Chinese because they thought because of security concerns. I mean, China is building, a huge generation worth of nuclear power plants in China. They came to help the UK, and rather than allowing the Chinese to help build this power plant, they kicked the Chinese out. They kicked the Chinese out every single investment they have in UK. I mean, great going, UK. I mean, absolutely great going. This is how you should run a business, right? Kick out the second largest economy in the world. You know, stop them from investing in your country. Absolutely great work. So the other reason people are doing 4-day weeks here in UK, or they're trying to push this through, is because of wages. And as you know, they cannot increase the wages in line with inflation, because that means businesses will have less profit, and businesses will be less competitive. So they are not allowing the wages to rise. So the other option is to basically reduce the hours. So that means you can still keep the same wage, but you work less. So you work 4 days instead of five, and that means, you know, you don't have to get a wage rise. Your wage stays the same, and you try and be productive. You try and do 5 days work in four, basically, rather than, you know, spread it across 5 days. And it has worked in some sectors. Some people are more productive on 4 days, having 3 days off, rather than just having 2 days off and working for 5 days. Sometimes you can't wait till Friday and you're really tired. And, sometimes doing the 4-day work actually does work well. So it does bring a number of benefits, but this also shows how desperate Britain has become. Um, how desperate, because they've got no gas and energy to run businesses 5 days a week. So they're asking them to run it 4 days a week to save gas and electricity costs, and also to stop people from asking for pay rises as well. So basically, this is why they're doing this. So I've already spoke about ambulance staff to strike on 21st of December, and I can imagine a lot of deaths happening at this time of year. There's going to be a lot of old people who have got flu or COVID or other issues. And there's also a story about how lots of kids are dying in UK. I think about 8, 9 kids have died of a new virus strain, strep is called, or something like that. And so there's a lot of viruses going around at the moment, and even 1 day strike, this could be fatal for a lot of people. And even if you can get to the, hospital, you might not have to call the ambulance. Even if you catch a cab and try and get to the hospital, there's no nurses there, so chances of you being seen is very, very small. There's not enough beds, there's not enough people to look after you. There might not be many medical staff to take care of you. So it's going to be an absolute shambles, guys. Absolute shambles. There's other issues in UK as well. There's supposed to be a major food shortage as well. You can see right now there's an egg shortage happening all across the UK. And my missus basically had to go in 3 separate supermarkets, and still she could not find any eggs. This is how bad things have gone, and it's going to get even worse. The food prices in UK are going through the roof. There's talk about, um, the Dutch farmers being clamped down. They've been asked not to produce a lot of food in Holland, so I'm not sure what's happening there. So it seems like there's something dodgy going on, and I need to do some more investigation here, because a developed country in the West shouldn't really have food shortages. And as you know, there's problems getting wheat. From all over the world. There's been a really bad harvest last year because of the climate. Some places it was really, really hot. There's a lot of countries which have stopped supplying wheat around the world. There's also what's happening in Ukraine as well, which has stopped wheat going around the world as well. So there's a lot of issues, a lot of factors, but it doesn't really give you the excuse why there's an egg shortage. There's definitely some major stuff going on around here. And I don't know if it's a conspiracy, or I don't know if this is going to be lasting longer than we thought. And I don't know if this is going to get even worse and it's going to be going into other things like milk and butter and many other foods as well. Because if this carries on like it is, I can see a lot of people going into supermarkets, panic buying and emptying out the shelves. And this is already happening also. I mean, shelves are starting to be empty again. And I went to one this morning, and I can see almost half the shelves are empty. And yeah, I think a lot of people are starting to panic buy now. Give it another month, guy. We're in December now. It's going to get very, very cold as from today. Give it another month, and we will literally be seeing riots in the streets if there's no food in supermarkets. So let's wait and see how this develops. So there's another story how there's a UK city near Oxfordshire, and they're basically trying out this new climate lockdown policy. And you know how sometimes, especially in the summer, it gets very, very hot. So what they're basically doing is putting a city within a city where everything's within that city, like everything that you need, like supermarkets and food places and restaurants, a bar, everything that you need is within 15 minutes of where you live. And basically, what they're planning is locking that city down, and they're calling it climate lockdown policy. But if this is successful, they can use this as basically a a real lockdown policy for viruses and other things as well, if they decide. And that's basically seems to be the plan, what they're doing. So basically, they're going to be having all of these city within a city lockdown policies. So you're basically only allowed to travel 15 minutes outside your home. Everything should be within your vicinity, and you're not allowed to travel outside that vicinity, or you get fined, or you get arrested, etc. So it's quite scary that they're doing this thing in Oxfordshire, which is not far from where I live, and it's in Britain as well, which is obviously a developed country. So it's very, very scary how they're trying out these new COVID, or they call it climate lockdown, but let's just say lockdown policies. And it's very scary how they're doing it in UK. Again, it's going to be interesting to see how this develops. So Rishi Sunak came on the other day, and he basically said this is the this is the end of the golden age of UK-China relations. So I asked myself, when did we ever have a golden age between UK-China relations? Is it when Britain, sold opium to China? Was that the golden age? Was it when Britain took Hong Kong from China, and Britain basically humiliated China for 150 years? Is that the golden age he's talking about? Because I don't know exactly when this golden age was. Is it when Britain was a superpower and they were basically, drugging up the whole of China on opium just to make money? Was that the golden age? Because Rishi Sunak needs to explain what he means by that. Because it's very, very racist, for him to kind of use this golden age of end of golden age of UK-China relations. And why has it ended now? Because is it because China's powerful now? Is it because they're saying no to UK's idiotic policies around the world? You know, the fact is China is still the second largest economy in the world, and Britain could have been in a very, very good position having good relations with China. After Brexit, China was the country to focus on, not just, become puppets of the United States. They had a really good opportunity after Brexit to become their own, you know, country, own foreign policy, start from zero, start making deals with every single country around the world. But no, they had to follow the US rule-based order, and they had to follow Europe when it comes to Ukraine. And Britain is basically at the same table as the Europeans when it comes to Ukraine, exactly the same table. They have the same foreign policies, except the only thing is they don't have the benefits of trade anymore. They still have all of this red tape with trade. So what was the point of Brexit then? It just makes no sense. And this Rishi Sunak guy is completely lost. And I think, like, Liz Truss, every time she opened her mouth, she would say something stupid, right? But Rishi Sunak is getting other people to say the stupid stuff. He's staying away from the public. He's staying away from interviews, and he's just letting people like Nadeem Zahawi say the stupid shit. So he gets away with it. So I guess he's a bit clever when he say things like that. But eventually, he's under a lot of pressure right now. People are saying he might not even last past Christmas because if people start dying over the next few weeks because of all of these strikes happening. Britain's literally going to be in a stand down. There's Royal Mail strikes. There's so many issues right now with Britain, and he's now starting up coal power plants. When last year he was basically blaming India and China in COP26, he was blaming them, saying, "Oh, it's because of them we're having this climate crisis," and now he's bloody opening up coal power plants. And this is basically double standards of the greatest degree. I just cannot believe what a stupid prime minister we have, and I just can't get this image of him and Trudeau in the G20 wearing matching T-shirts, and they're posing in a picture with Klaus Schwab. And what the hell is Klaus Schwab doing in the G20? Obviously, he's there to kind of give instructions to Sunak, his protege. This it's absolutely beyond me how stupid Sunak is. I mean, he's just running this country to the ground. So what's Sunak's answer to all of these strikes then? So basically, he's talking about banning strikes. I mean, how the hell are you going to ban strikes? All right, we ban strikes. What's he going to do? Put all of the nurses in jail? Is he going to put all the Royal Mail workers in jail? There's millions of them. I mean, how stupid can you get? I mean, you would expect this in a poor country or something, not in a bloody developed country to ban strikes. I mean, come on. This is how stupid Rishi Sunak is. Seriously, instead of just paying the nurses what they deserve, he wants to ban the strikes. Right? Yeah, like that's gonna work. That's really gonna, you know, get you re-elected. In the next general election. So another idiot of the day, we got Mr. Zelensky. I mean, look at that picture. He's a person of the year. Oh my god. Oh my god. This is beyond a joke. It's almost like a parody, but it's not a parody. This is actually real. And not only that, his wife was in some sort of human rights court in UK, and she basically won this award about Ukraine, you know going having the best human rights award and stuff like that, and the fact that they do know they don't really shoot Russian soldiers point blank doing war crimes and all that stuff. The world basically ignores all of that and gives her an award, saying, "Oh, she's like, Ukraine is won this human rights thing." Oh my God, this is how ridiculous the world has become. And put this guy as the person of the year in Time magazine. Time magazine, it's not like a small Time magazine. This is one of the most famous magazines in the world, and so many great people have graced the covers of Time magazine, and I just can't believe this guy's face is on it. I'm never going to see Time magazine in the same way ever again. So let's talk a little bit about Russia, shall we? So Russia suffers his third cross-border drone attack in 2 days, and basically I'm going to have a chat with Brian Briletic from New Atlas on this in more detail. I've got a few questions, and my questions are: how the hell did these drones manage to get so deep into Russian territory? And if they can get that deep, they can easily attack Moscow, because Moscow is not that far off if you look at the map where Russia got attacked. And secondly, Russia is saying that basically they shot these drones down, and all of these fire and explosion is when the drones fell in the fell in the ground. But you know, I've still got a few more questions about that as well. For example, how these fires were happening in an airfield. Both were in airfields as well, and how people got killed. There's a lot of kind of stories that are on papers which I don't kind of s- it doesn't really answer my questions. So I'm gonna have a chat with Brian about that tomorrow and see what his feelings are and see what happened. I don't have enough information to talk about this right now. I'll probably need to do more research, so I'll discuss it tomorrow. Don't forget, tomorrow, 12 o'clock UK time, Brian Beletic, New Atlas. So we're going to discuss this in more detail. So President Xi has landed in Saudi Arabia, and as you can see, he's being greeted. He's literally being given a purple carpet. It's not a red carpet, but it's a purple carpet. But he's going to be given a more like a king's entrance. And even Biden did not get this. Biden hardly had anyone meeting him when he landed, and everyone's seen the image of Biden fist pumping MBS, which was an absolute joke. And funnily enough, there was a case going on, a murder case of MBS murdering Khashoggi in the US. And coincidentally enough, this case got dropped today as soon as President Xi landed. So sometimes there's a coincidence and sometimes it's not a coincidence. And this event is definitely not a coincidence because they knew President Xi was landing in Saudi Arabia today. And what did the US do? They dropped that charge against MBS about the murder of Khashoggi. And that just goes to show, they could have dropped that charge at any time. They decided to drop it today, and it's never about human rights. They don't care about Khashoggi. They don't care about his wife. They don't care about human rights. It's all about their interests. It's all about money. It's all about oil. And they've just proven it by dropping that case. If they went along with that case, I could have respected them for sticking to their guns. But again, you've seen, when it comes to their interests, when it comes to money, when it comes to oil, they'll put that first above anything. They'll sell their soul, they'll sell their grandma or their mother if they have to, just for money. And that's what they've done, the Biden administration. So I'm going to be talking about this in more detail over the next few days. I'd like to see what's been agreed and what's been discussed. I don't have much information on it right now, but we'll see what happens. So the other thing that's been happening last few days is the oil price cap, and is already causing a major issue. And you can see there's oil tankers queuing up off Turkey. So at the moment, things are going to be a bit messed up. Russia's not going to take things lying down. And this has to be one of the most stupidest decisions ever. And you have to understand where this idea come from. It's come from Janet Yellen, um, and basically the Europeans decided again to shoot themselves in the foot. Um, the Americans, they don't really need Russian gas or oil. America is pretty much self-sufficient when it comes to that. Europeans need it. So again, they've shot themselves in the foot by following this some ridiculous Janet Yellen idea. And Russia has already said they're not going to sell oil to countries that implement this ban. And also, Russia has got its own fleets. It's going to provide its own insurance. They're going to provide, insurance is also going to be coming from Shanghai as well. Shanghai's got a few massive fleet of tanks as well. And the world's capital, shipbuilding capital, is in Shanghai, so they are churning out these ships like nobody's business. So they're going to be providing a lot of insurance, and the only loser in this is going to be London. London was the number one insurance capital of the world, and it always has been. And right now, uh, things are turning into a multipolar world. Shanghai and Russia, UAE, Dubai, Saudi Arabia are going to provide more or less most of the insurance, even Singapore, even Hong Kong, even. And these countries are going to be providing insurance and taking a lot of the market share away from London. So London's going to be losing a lot of market share when it comes to insurance. London has already lost market share when it comes to its financial capital. It's lost its share trading capital from London into Amsterdam. It's also losing a lot of financial banks to Paris and Frankfurt as well. So London is losing a lot of a lot of its strengths that I had built over the years, and this is another one. And once insurance disappears from London, there really isn't much left in London. It's systematically getting torn apart piece by piece, and this is one of the latest pieces that's going to be torn apart. And this price cap is not going to work, not at all. Russia has got many tools. One, they can decide not to sell to countries which implement this price cap. Secondly, Putin mentions about something having a price ceiling in Russian oil. So whichever price cap they decide to sell it to, Russia will say, nope, we have a price floor of $70 per barrel. We're not gonna. That's going to be our minimum. We're not going to sell any lower than that. Or Russia can easily cut production. And if they cut production, oil prices start going to, they're going to start shooting up. And that's not going to be good for anyone in the world, especially for Europeans. And Europeans are going to be forced to buy, Russian oil coming from China or India for a lot higher price. And again, this is basically a seller's market. Oil is a commodity that's not you know abundant in the world. You know and it's like somebody knocking on your door and saying, I want to buy your house. And I'm like, it's not for sale. And they said, oh, I want to buy it. Basically, I'll give you like $5 for it. I said, you just have to laugh at their face. How can someone knock on your door and ask you to sell it for that price? It doesn't make sense. If you want to sell it, you sell it at the price you feel that you deserve. And for you, if you're gonna get anything lower, you're not gonna sell it. You're just gonna tell them to get lost. And this is exactly what Russia's gonna do to Europeans. And it's the Europeans that are going to lose out because Americans are pretty much self-sufficient when it comes to gas and oil. Europeans are not. So they're going to be scrounging around begging for oil and gas throughout the rest of the world. And at the end, they're going to buy Russian gas and oil anyway, but they're going to buy it through third parties. They're going to buy it via India or China, and for double, even triple the price. So it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. This price cap is never going to work, and you know it's absolutely stupid, to be honest. So that excuse me. So that's all I have time for today, guys. Thanks for listening. And apologies for the rant beginning of the video, but it had to be said, unfortunately. Had to give you an update of what's happening. I have been away for more than a week. Thanks for everyone that's been listening so far. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. It's very, very important. Help the algorithm, guys. And if you can help support the channel, that will be great as well. It helps keep me alive, keep this channel alive, and that's very, very important. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you soon.